Welcome to this Skill Builder session on giving a presentation.
Over the course of your studies, you may be asked to stand in front of a group of people and make a presentation, either individually or as part of a small team of fellow students. Understanding what they are for and how to create them will help you approach and deliver presentation assignments with confidence. By the end of this tutorial, you will know why presentations are important, what makes a good presentation, the process involved in creating one, and how to deliver a presentation effectively. So, why are presentation assignments so important at university? Firstly, they are used as a form of assessment. As with a good essay, a good presentation demonstrates that you can research and evaluate information, use it to form a plausible argument surrounding a topic, and present it clearly and succinctly. They are also considered as excellent preparation for the world of work, from presenting yourself at a job interview, presenting an idea to senior colleagues, to presenting your company's work, perhaps as part of a small team, to a business client. For this reason, presentations at university represent a valuable personal development opportunity, which, whatever your feelings about public speaking, should be embraced. So, what makes a good presentation? Firstly, it should contain appropriate content. The information it contains needs to be well researched, relevant, and interesting. Secondly, it should have a clear structure, with key points presented in a logical, flowing sequence. And finally, it needs to be delivered audibly and confidently, allowing the viewer or audience to focus on its content. Before you start creating a presentation, you will need to clarify a few key points. Do you know exactly what you have to do? If not, find out. Is it a group or solo presentation? Will it need to be delivered within a 10 or 20-minute time frame, or will you have longer? What kind of audience will it have, which in turn may dictate what kind of presentation it needs to be? You will also need to know where, when and how it will be delivered, in person in a room or lecture theatre, or online. In either case, what equipment will you need, and who will provide it? Finally, what constitutes success? Have you received any confirmation of the assessment criteria? Once these questions are answered, you are ready to begin. If working as part of a team, your first task may be to jointly allocate roles, responsibilities, and workloads. There are two considerations when allocating responsibilities. The first is fairness, evenly sharing the workload, which may include mundane tasks as well as more interesting ones, is important to maximise cooperation and involvement. Feeling that others are not sharing the burden of work can be demotivating, leading to a downward spiral of disengagement. The second is optimisation, meaning that where possible, team members' individual talents and skills are used to maximum effect, so that, for example, a team member who's enthusiastic and comfortable with IT may take responsibility for technical aspects of the presentation, while others may be better suited to writing the text, or creating supporting imagery, or undertaking research. A good balance between the two will ensure that the team is both motivated and that its talents are used to maximum effect. Itemising tasks on a template such as this before discussing and agreeing each team member's individual roles is a good first step. It helps the team establish what needs to be done and avoid confusion later as to who is responsible for each aspect of the presentation. As with an essay, creating a presentation comprises a series of stages, the first of which is working on the content. This includes researching the topic, assembling material including examples and anecdotes, identifying and selecting the most essential and important points from the material gathered, and arranging them in order to create a natural flow. Presenting that material also has much in common with the traditional structure of an essay. First, you will introduce yourself to your audience and explain what you will be saying in your presentation. Then you will proceed to say it in a series of points arranged in a logical order each supported by evidence and explanation, before concluding with a summary of the main points you have made. As you develop your presentation, rehearse each draft to check that it fits the allocated time span and carefully edit accordingly. SLAS's tutorial on editing, part of our essay writing tutorial series, offers useful advice on the principles of editing, which can also be applied to presentations. As you prepare your presentation, there are a few key things to remember. Firstly, that normal academic rules apply. For example, assertions must be supported by evidence, and academic sources, including copyrighted images, should be acknowledged. Secondly, you will probably have a set time in which to deliver your presentation, so focus tightly on the key points you wish to make, and don't be diverted. You should also include good signposting language, such as "the second key benefit of the process is," or "in conclusion," to help the audience follow proceedings. PowerPoint slideshows are widely used as they allow you to stay in control of the pace and content of the presentation. If you are using this method of presentation, a few simple principles apply. Do not overload your slides. Slides are there to introduce the different points that you will be making. They are not a script to be read out loud. If they were, you would have no reason to be there. Slides should be clear, legible, and consistent in format, allowing the audience to concentrate on what you are saying, rather than being distracted trying to read poorly presented text. For the same reason, any sound effects can prove distracting rather than helpful, and should only be used for a specific purpose. Visual aids should and can be used more widely. Depending on how the presentation is to be delivered, visual aids can help support what you are saying. They should always serve a purpose. In some cases, that purpose may be to signal a change of topic under discussion, or simply to amuse in order to create a relaxed atmosphere. In other cases, they may aid the understanding of a difficult concept, in this case, the structure of an organisation. Imagine trying to explain the different hierarchies, branches, functions, responsibilities or personnel within an organisation such as this in words only. As the saying goes, picture paints 1,000 words, and this principle applies no less to diagrams, pie charts and any other visual aids you may decide to use in your presentation. But use them with caution. Make them work for you, not against you. You may like to pause for a few moments to consider the shortcomings of this slide, which include illegibility, overcrowding and inconsistent use of fonts, colours and bullet points, and of course an annoying and distracting sound effect right at the beginning. Instead, you should aim for clarity, legibility and purpose in your use of images, as demonstrated by the previous slide. Before you make your presentation, either solo or with your team, prepare well. Confirm when, where and how it is to be delivered, and that you have any equipment or online links organised in advance. If you are delivering your presentation online, check that you are clearly visible and audible to the audience, and that your background is not distracting. Rehearse. Your presentation, like any other performance, should be practiced to establish familiarity and fluency with the text and the process of moving from point to point or between different team members. Rehearsal will enable you to trim the text if you find yourself overrunning on time, bearing in mind that your delivery should not be rushed, and identify any tongue twisters that can be replaced to eliminate the risk of verbal stumbles. Knowing that you have practiced well will help reduce anxiety as you approach your performance, ensuring a more confident and thus convincing delivery. So, practice for yourself, for your fellow team members, and for your audience. Here are some additional tips as you prepare to make your presentation. A little vocal warm-up before you enter the room or go online, perhaps just saying a few opening lines, will help you get your voice going. A few sips of water beforehand may help you avoid a dry mouth, which can make talking difficult. Similarly, a stretch and a few deep breaths will help relax and prepare you. Smile. You're glad to be there, sharing your knowledge with an appreciative audience. Pause before you start speaking and briefly as you transition between sections of the presentation. Don't rush. If you've rehearsed your timings and have stayed on track, there should be no need to do so. Finally, especially if you are delivering a presentation in person, try to use body language to improve your performance. A relaxed but upright stance will project confidence in what you're saying, whilst fidgeting with your hands will convey the opposite. Instead, use them to gesture at key points in the presentation, perhaps drawing attention to something on the screen or where you want to emphasize something. Your body language will register with your audience to some degree, so be aware that it always has a positive role to play. As you finish your presentation, you may well be asked questions. If you have prepared well and your knowledge of the topic extends beyond what you have simply presented on screen, you should feel confident about demonstrating the depth of your knowledge. Even so, there are a few tips to help you answer questions. Listen carefully. Understand what is being asked and seek clarification if necessary. Repeat or summarize the question so that all those taking part are clear what it is. Answer it as clearly and succinctly as possible to allow time for further questions. Be inclusive. Some audience members may dominate, but try to include people from around the room. Finally, be honest. Rather than ramble or invent an answer, admit that it's something that you haven't covered, perhaps offering to find out the answer and get back to the questioner later. Your final task may be to draw attention to further information, perhaps presented in the form of a printed handout. As well as a record of the content of the presentation, it may include supplementary information such as bibliographies and contact addresses. If produced, a handout will constitute a physical reminder of your presentation and is likely to be included in any assessment of the assignment, so ensure that it is of a similarly high standard. As with all your work, ensure that it gathers together the key points that you have made, that it is clear, concise, legible and well laid out. Generally, unless you have a good reason to do otherwise, handouts are best distributed once you have finished your presentation to avoid distracting the audience beforehand. Finally, as a way of familiarizing yourself with and practicing some of the techniques described in this tutorial, try this short exercise. Working with a partner, ask them to talk for 3 minutes about a favourite activity of theirs, or perhaps a favourite place they like to go. Take notes. Pick out the most important points and arrange them in order. Then, complete with an introduction and a conclusion, present the merits of that activity back to them. Analyse the strengths and weaknesses of your presentation and make it again, focusing on key improvements which may relate to the writing or your delivery. If you're not used to making presentations, it would be advisable to practice before you embark on a major presentation assignment.
By now, you should understand why presentations are important and what makes a good one. You should also have a good idea of the process involved in creating one and how to deliver it effectively. If there's anything you don't understand, please book an appointment or contact us at sas@kent.ac.uk.
If you have any feedback on this tutorial or any of our services, please let us know. In the meantime, good luck with your presentation and remember, prepare, prepare, prepare.